met raad en saam, met lyding en hoop, verdriet en saam staan jy staan. Jy is altyd daar. Dit wat ons doen, ons liefdes, ons vreugdes, ons plekke, ons thuisdes, tot daar waar ons reis, jy is daar. Afrikaans is ons wese, dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Al verander straatname, al word helde laat val, ons is steeds deur ons adem, ons kultuur, ons verhaal, dit sal altyd bestaan. Afrikaans is ons wese, dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Ons is daarmee gebore, die taal waarvoor ons staan, dit vloei deur ons are, ons kinders praat het saam, dit sal altyd bestaan. Afrikaans is ons wese, dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is. Dis die taal waarin ons groet, die taal is in ons bloed, is Afrikaans, vir ons mense. En ek stuur vir jou 'n sy, met 'n boodskap daarby, en waar jy is, sal jy dit kry, in Afrikaans vir ons mense. Afrikaans vir ons mense. Afrikaans vir my mense. Afrikaans vir ons mense.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Alright, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to live this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in our eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Tonight, we're gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we're gonna let it rain.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that Simon's down in Boulders. Folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. So quick question, folks. Is the major belly aching over? Wow, we've interviewed 3 political candidates in the past 24 hours, and the people come on the chat just to whine about the political candidates when they actually step forward and put themselves in the spotlight, in the crosshairs. Nothing wrong with asking hard questions, but boy, being snarky and childish in the chat really is getting annoying. I'd appreciate some people either growing up or foot-secking away from the conversation. We really don't need people. If you don't like the questions I'm asking, then you can create your own program and you can ask to interview these people yourselves. My intent is never to embarrass any guest. I've never done that. That is just not a good way to do business. If you don't like that, that's unfortunate. Then this channel is not for you. But for those who ask poignant questions and respectful questions, thank you very much. And by the way, got to hand it to someone who's in the early 20s who was standing for office. One of my opponents in the race, who I beat, but not by a wide margin in the race, kept me from coming in last, was 22 years old. And, you know, major props to someone like that. I would like to run for office when I was 22, but I was serving in uniform and it was illegal. Therefore, I couldn't do it. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat. Yes, lots of broadcasts today. We've already had 2 interviews this morning, 2 separate broadcasts. This is the news, the 3rd broadcast. And then later today, we have K Nako. That's coming after a short break. So, wow. A couple things. Let me get to the chat. There's Hendo saying he's struggling to keep up with my hundreds of broadcasts. Hakan Eggman is here. And then we've got Courtney McBride. What's he talking about there? And then Monray Seabridge, Janet Lydian from South Carolina, Erica in from the Western Cape, no longer from Amazim Todi. Vilma Erasmus, Petra Myberg from Fellowdrift up there, Brian Lawrenson. Courtney is saying, something jumped ahead on me there. Courtney was saying something and it all went ahead. Why was Perestroika a failure in Russia but a success in China? Perestroika was not a success in China. No. That's a myth. That's a myth. The state still has total control and makes people disappear and imprisons people. Nothing's changed. China is now a global power. China is a global power because of its massive population. Leo Vinyansa from Rensburg just gave a super chat. Thank you for that. The first of the month, 140 Rand. Thank you for your election streams. I mean, I always like the party, but always learn something new. Never too old to learn. Really appreciate it. You're very welcome, Levin. Yeah, I don't necessarily appreciate all the parties that I talk to either, but I do talk to them. And then someone criticized the other day when I said I wouldn't interview the EF. Why would I interview them? They're a avowed racist. That's what they're all about, racism. Now, I made an exception to MK because MK is new and it's different. And their leaders don't go around singing, murdering people. So we'll give them a break for the moment. But my analysis of their manifesto is that this is based on race. So, but anyway, Mark Myberg also up there in Fellowdrift. Helen Rich, welcome to you, Helen. Brian Lawrenson, there's Hester Kotza. Courtney says, really, this opening song were in English. Oh, well, then that's a shame. It's I've shared the lyrics before. It's a good song. Afrikaans is our essence. It's Afrikaans for my people. Welcome, George from Heckport. And then Erica need to reboot. Something froze on her. Jan Filion says, Boer Romophobia Marxist on here today. Courtney McBride I said hello to already. And what else we got there? Matthew Dixon, don't see any Cape Independence people here. Courtney's, what's with the rhino comment? There's the, Leovin's membership. There you go. 2 years today. Wow. Or no, 3 years almost 3 years, 34 months. And African Idiots back again. Good to see. Afrikaans is ons taal. That's our language. Taal is language. In German, it means valley, not language. I love this techno song. It's not techno. Oh, you mean the one for my premiere, my opening? Yeah, that might be. I love that song too. I see danger in your eyes. Okay, Samantha Holm, welcome, Samantha. Good to see you there. And whom have I missed here? Mark. I already said Mark. And Matthew says it takes a lot to offend Matthew. Yes, but Matthew can offend people pretty easily. Green Phantom is back, and I think I've covered everybody except Hendo. Welcome to all of you. So first off, tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, I've scheduled an appointment with the media company who helped me design the cards and the signs and all the things, took my vision and translated into something very impressive. I may not have won the election, but I did have the best election material for the most part. So what I want to do tomorrow, I mentioned yesterday, is I want to give honey. Now, I can't find the nice exotic kinds of honey I'm looking for around here. There are no little boutique shops nearby that provide it, but I did get these and a variety of honey, and these will be my gifts to each of the people who helped me from that organization yesterday. So these are from Pennsylvania. This is wildflower honey, pure honey, not adulterated, pure honey, which will last forever. So each of them will get a gift. There's wildflower, And then the more common one that people are familiar with, the golden color of clover honey. You can see the difference between the wildflower and clover. You can see the color difference there. Quite a difference in what the bees produce here. So that's clover honey here. And then we have buckwheat, which is another one. Buckwheat is also a dark honey, buckwheat. And so comparing that to clover once again, you can see the pure difference there. Certainly a clear difference between the two honeys, yeah. So buckwheat, and then finally goldenrod, which is another type of honey that's produced here in central Pennsylvania, or in Pennsylvania, I should say. So goldenrod, and comparing that once again to the buckwheat, which is a dark one, you can see the difference there. Look at that. That almost looks like syrup or something, but this is honey. Yeah. So anyway, I'll be giving these to the people tomorrow who helped my campaign as a sign of gratitude. Now, I didn't win the election, so why am I thanking them? Because they did provide a service. I paid them for the service, but that really doesn't matter. The service was excellent, and I want to thank them in a special way. So I owe them nothing. They owe me nothing, but this is just, I think, what people of class do. Love the variety of guests, broad outlook on life, says Helen. Yep. Well, we've got Athol Trollope from Action SA on next week. Plus, we've got another Action SA member next week. Neil DeBeer from the UIM is on Sunday. We're also looking for candidates from other parties. Waiting to hear back from the Freedom Front Plus. Haven't heard from them. Pennsylvania is not a state. It's a commonwealth like Massachusetts. It is a state in our federal system. It identifies as a commonwealth. Yes, you're correct. A commonwealth. All right. We'll be visiting Utah soon. Not with that attitude, Courtney. We get wild fireweed honey in the area. It's spicy and has a red shade. Oh, that's interesting. Sign of gratitude from a kind person. Thank you, Helen. All right. So Action SA next week. Yep, we'll have them and many more candidates coming, as many as I can get on board here, folks. Again, still waiting. I'm waiting on a couple things. I'm waiting on my federal tax return, which I'm waiting with bated breath because it's a nice one this year. I did get the state return already. That came last week pretty quickly. So I'm waiting for the federal return, which is probably going to occur in the next week. I need it to pay for a credit card bill, so hopefully it'll come in. And then I'm also waiting for my passport. So there you go. Utah is a beehive state. That's correct. It is. And the reason why I'm giving the honey, by the way, for those who don't know, bees work together as a team. And this company worked together as a team to help me out. So that's why I'm doing it. Samantha says, beautiful honey is so unusual in South Africa. Blue gum and orange blossoms, my favorite. Yeah, no, those are pretty cool types too. And I've actually worked with bees in South Africa. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. Sloth Puppy says, and that's why the Colonel's a legend, shows your character class at giving gifts of honey. Well, thank you for that, Sloth. I think long and hard. I mean, a gift basket for a bunch of people. Nobody would get anything, but everybody will get this. And here's the thing about honey. That honey will last a long time. So every time they go in the closet to get honey, months or years from now, they may remember the generosity. So there you go. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, yes, they do vote in Puerto Rico. They do. They just don't get electoral college representation. Indeed, they do. The dark honey looks like molasses. It does look like molasses, doesn't it? Anyway. All right, so I missed something here. What was it at? The dark honey looks like molasses. I got that. I missed something else. Anyway, well, welcome to everybody. So K-Naka, which we haven't done since February, will be on. And tonight, it won't be Dumodenga. It will be Koketsa Ratsani. Possibly Nola will be joining us. I'm looking forward to that. Completely left of field, Colonel. Did you ever do the Route 66? Yeah, I've done Route 66, but parts of it, not the entire trip. I don't think you can do the entire trip. I wouldn't recommend it for a tourist. It's not that special. I mean, look, if you're going to do something like that, you might as well go to the Grand Canyon, go to Las Vegas. That's far more interesting than Route 66. I mean, that's, you want to go, Albuquerque's also, well, that's not, Taos is nicer than Albuquerque. But yeah, no, I'd recommend that you go to the Grand Canyon and to Vegas. Much better things to see there. Huge difference between what? What did Keith say? I missed that. So anyway. Love honey also makes life sweeter. It does. It's very tasty. Nature's sugar. Yeah, the bees are amazing. Yep. Anyway, let's get to it, folks. We've got some news to talk about here today. A lot of election-related stuff for South Africa, of course. Just a second here. I've got to reduce my videos. I recorded all three of those streams, so they've popped up here. There we go. And that's the one from yesterday. So those three interviews are saved now. Joking Atheist says, thanks. You're very welcome, Joking Atheist. All right, let's get to the news. All right, so first out of here. Police have launched an investigation into the alleged malfeasance of the Mkhonto we Sizwe party of Jacob Zuma accused of fraudulently obtaining signatures to get on the ballot, and police have launched an investigation. Want to bet this investigation ends after the election? Could very well be the case. Yep, so we'll see what happens. There you go. Police launch investigation in allegations of MK Party signature forgery. Oh, Jacob Zuma looks like he's been caught doing something wrong, doesn't he? Wow. Signatures to secure a spot on the ballot for the upcoming provincial and national government elections. On Sunday, City Press reported former MK Party senior official Lennox Nsondo reported the incident to Western Cape Police last week. Nsondo said in February he allegedly appointed a team of 20 people to assist with a mass forgery of signatures after the IEC rejected the MK Party's initial application for registration. My goodness. What do we have here? Malfeasance? Probably. The Redwoods are crazy, amazing. Yes, the Olympic Peninsula. I've been to Washington State, and I've been to Seattle, and I've been to the eastern part, and I've been to Olympia, but I've never been on the Olympic Peninsula, which is west of there. It's a beautiful place, though. Is John Möslein here? Wow, John Möslein. Hey, na wie geht's, du alte Knabe? Hey? I'll be at Puget Sound Naval Shipyard for annual training. Well, that'll be interesting, Courtney. Seattle's a lovely place to visit. Living there is difficult. The sales tax in the state of Washington is outrageous. The leftist policies of the state legislature are mind-boggling, but it is a beautiful location. It's a shame it's wasted on leftists. It's a shame it's wasted on leftists. But the MK Party in a bit of trouble here. It's a sticky wicket for the MK Party. What will happen to them? By the way, folks, it's been a very productive day here for me. Woke up. I didn't sleep well last night. Woke up repeatedly, but did wake up this morning, did the research for the news, got the news assembled, then went out and mowed my lawn, the backside, which needed to be mowed very badly. Did the Fatima Abdul interview, the Robert King interview. Now we're doing the news. I'll take a short break, and then it's on to Kanako tonight. Looking forward to that. And then later tonight, it's my radio program. In between all that, at some point, I probably should eat something before my blood sugar reaches low. Wait a second. I got 4 jars of honey sitting here on the floor. Cyril Ramaphosa addresses a rally. That's right. A Cosatu May Day rally. President Ramaphosa addresses the Cosatu National Workers Rally at Athlo Stadium. Cosatu said the theme is centered around building a strong and united Cosatu as the union mobilizes for an ANC electoral victory. Well, Cosatu, you're going to be heavily disappointed. There will be no ANC electoral victory. They will not win. They may have a plurality. That's a very real possibility, but they will not win this election. No way. Hey, Backwoods Law, it's been a long time. Welcome back to you. Yeah, the ANC will not win. All right, so let me just take a break here in the news and talk about May Day. May Day is the day that communists and leftists and labor unions around the world celebrate as a day to recognize labor. While those of us who work in workforces are part of labor, those who are part of the labor movement, very different situation. There was a time in the history of humankind when labor unions were necessary to overcome the power of oligarchies, monopolies, and trusts that kept wages artificially low to allow for massive corporate profits at the expense of labor. Those days were in the 19th and early part of the 20th century. Those days are long gone. Labor has damaged our economy over and over and over again, pushing for raises in minimum wages, which push up inflation and cost jobs, pushing for higher benefits, which eventually lead to disastrous outcomes for corporations. It is one of the main reasons why General Motors went bankrupt and was stolen by the Obama administration, a crime for which they've yet to pay. The Obama administration stole the General Motors Corporation and Chrysler Corporation from shareholders under a fraudulent claim. That's right. The bondholders for General Motors were hoodwinked out of between $20 and $30 billion in bonds because of Barack Obama. And people have forgotten that. I have not forgotten the criminal actions of the Obama administration in defrauding shareholders and bondholders of General Motors and of Chrysler, stealing these corporations and turning General Motors into government motors and appointing a leftist apparatchik to run government motors while pouring billions of dollars into it at taxpayer expense. They stole our stock from a publicly traded company. They stole our equity, and then they buried us in debt. And then they let some leftists run the company who gave massive benefits to unions and workers, which put General Motors on a path for problems again. In the interest of full disclosure, in the reorganized General Motors, I have purchased shares. I did not own shares in the entity that was stolen illegally by the corrupt criminal organization known as the Obama administration. So there you go. I do own shares in the new one, but they've not performed very well. They've been average at best. Chrysler was stolen from American shareholders and now belongs to Fiat, not even an American company. Daimler-Benz sold the company back. It once again became an American company, and then the government intervened, stole the corporation, and gave it to the labor unions and to Fiat. Yep, shameful, shameful, shameful. Yeah, no, this is a day that we do not celebrate Labor Day on May 1st in America. We celebrate Labor Day in September. Courtney McBride, thank you for your super chat. Courtney says he's a union member and it's made his life better. Well, congratulations for you. I was forced to be a member of the Teamsters, a disreputable, horrible organization which stole 1/5 of my income every week when I worked for UPS, United Parcel Service, back in the late 1980s. They stole 1/5 of my labor. I worked basically 1/5 of the time for a labor union, and all I got was harassment from the shop steward, who constantly harassed me. Are you on the clock? Are you off the clock? You shouldn't be here. You're not allowed to work this many hours. Hey, buddy, read between the lines, footsack, piss off. I'm doing my job, and I'm doing it well for my employer. And if you don't like it, take it elsewhere. Unions, not my cup of tea. There was a time that they had a purpose of existing. They've, since the 1950s, been nothing but a racketeering organization to float dirty money and to influence politics unduly. No thank you for unions. Labor Day is a big day in Oxford. Really? Really? Okay. Didn't know that. But this is an international day which people celebrate May Day. And of course, the commies loved it. Big parades in the Soviet Union, in the German Democratic Republic, which was neither German, Democratic, or Republic. And there's Courtney McBride's super chat. Thank you for the $1.99. Courtney, I appreciate that. Yes, unions are a massive problem everywhere they exist. Absolutely. Cosatu being a prime example of it. All the unions in South Africa do is undermine labor and destroy employment. That's all that they do. National Association of Letter Carriers. There are some horrible managers at the post office. Unions make my job much better. Well, that's a failure of the Postal Service. The United States Postal Service should have a mechanism for people to deal with horrible bosses. That's why we have ombudsmen in corporations. That's why we have mechanisms in place to deal with that. Yep. Vilma Rasmus. Didn't know you left, Vilma. And there's Fleshin. And Chris Ehlers is back. Okay. Wasn't a union necessary at one point. Matthew, are you listening, or did you just tune back in? I did say there was a time. In fact, Upton Sinclair wrote a famous book called The Jungle, talking about child labor in the meatpacking plants and other horrible abuses in turn of the century Chicago. The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, a frightening book. And then, of course, we have labor unions that have played a big role in changing working conditions and served a useful purpose at one time. But that time is long since passed. Now the government has put so much restriction and control over the labor market that unions are largely unnecessary. The biggest joke to me is that federal employees actually have a labor union, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME. This is a disgrace. If you're a public servant, you should not be part of a union. And in South Africa, soldiers can join a union. How asinine is that? I'm going to talk about panty-waist militaries today. We're going to talk about the 4th Infantry Division in Fort Carson, Colorado, where commanders and supervisors and leaders are not allowed to communicate with their subordinates after a 9-to-5 job. The American military has gone to shit, and it's collapsing as we speak. And we're going to talk about that later in the broadcast, so hang around for that. Unions are for people with doubtful skills. Agreed, Mark. If you have the skills, you can command the wages. You notice that we never have trouble finding nurses and paying them well here in America because there's always a need for them. Yep. May Day celebrations long before May Day was a thing. Well, May Day is also the Maypole. That's a very famous thing in Germanic culture and in Scandinavian culture, and because they celebrate the onset of spring, and you walk around the maypole with those little strings and all that stuff, and maidens dress up in really tight bosom dresses, and it's quite appealing. But May Day has been bastardized by the labor movement. Yep. So communists, whom I have no use for, socialists, who I have even less use for, they are just evil people who seek to steal from those who are talented and successful by dumbing down society and bringing us all down to the lowest common denominator. It, of course, is no surprise that the communists and the socialists who run our governments around the world are responsible for the COVID scam, political scam that took place. Yep. I belonged to a union, but I saw it as a money-sucking organization. Exactly, Maryland. That's exactly what it was to me. Yep, did nothing for me. Nothing for me. Yep. That's exactly right. Massive mining layoffs coming soon. What is Cosatu doing to help these people? Nothing. Of course not, Grasshopper, because they don't care about those people. What they care about is the dues that they get paid and the political power that they wield and the offices they hold and the privilege and the hotels and the perks and all the lovely things they get, courtesy of the poor serfs who must contribute part of their living wage to a union, which claims to be working on their benefit. No. Socialism is the death of 1,000 cuts to become a communist. That's well stated, Backwoods Law. Well stated. Well, Cyril Ramaphosa spoke today, and nobody cared. But the leftist political parties in South Africa are desperate. They're out trying to hoodwink voters into voting for them by plaiting hair, by helping wash things, by moving things around. This is just pathetic. Look at this report in the Independent Online, when even legacy media reports on the silliness of desperate political parties. Door to door with a twist as political parties perform household chores in pursuit of votes. From assisting with the hand washing of clothing, braiding hair, fetching water in buckets, and cleaning your backyard for you, volunteers from the ANC, the EFF, the IFP, and MK are going the extra mile in their pursuit of votes ahead of the May 29th elections. How pathetic is this? By the way, where were these political parties for the past 5 years? They weren't plaiting hair for the past 5 years, washing and cleaning your backyard, doing favors to buy your vote. Now suddenly they appear 30 days before the election to buy your vote. That's right. Foot-sec, foot-sec, foot-sec. Goodbye, goodbye. Send them packing. Door-to-door campaigns in townships and rural areas has long been a mainstay of the South African politics. But this year, with the competition at its zenith, that's right, volunteers of political parties are being forced to do more than just hand out T-shirts and pamphlets in exchange for votes. It would appear the strategy is that of active service and leaving an indelible mark. Well, let's check this one out. This is where somebody from the ANC is actually... Look at this. Look at how they're helping the go-go do the laundry. Oh, please. She'll never see them again in her lifetime. She will never see these clowns again. These clowns from the ANC out there scrubbing laundry in a bucket with the go-go. If I was a go-go, I would be asking, why am I still doing laundry in a bucket? Because you people are in charge. 30 years later, where's my pipe water? Where's my washing machine? Where are the jobs for my children? You're here helping me wash my laundry in a bucket. I wouldn't be in a bucket if you weren't running this country and stealing from me. That's what she should be saying. Wow. That's what she should be saying. Wow. Several election polls have predicted the governing ANC well below 50%. Yep. But between Gauteng and KZN, the ANC got 4.4 million votes the last time out. And they need those votes desperately. Where's my electricity? Yes, saw this clip. Exactly. Courtney McBride with another super chat. You only pay $32 a month in union dues? That's $32 too much, Courtney. $32 a month? I was making $125 a week and was paying over $20 a week in union dues to the Teamsters back in 1988, 89. Fact. Still have the pay stubs. Yep. California's contract associates serve as a union hall for construction workers seeking assignments, but run by employees. No fees, no politics, just jobs. There you go. So, the Daily Maverick, and this is why they're becoming less trustworthy, run a puff piece for Eskom claiming that they've solved the electricity crisis. Do you believe that? Eskom offers signs that power crisis has turned a corner. Victoria O'Regan runs this story. How has Eskom drastically managed to reduce the intensity of power cuts from stage 2 to stage 3 to keeping the lights on throughout April? They've touted improvements in its fleet of aging power stations. But that's not what's happened. Two things have been in play here. They are burning their gas turbines with diesel like no tomorrow. They are burning through diesel in record amounts of money that they don't have. But somehow the government is funneling them. They are also having millions of South Africans no longer rely on Eskom for the electricity, getting their electricity primarily from alternative sources. That's why. Not because they've solved anything. They haven't solved squat. In fact, they're talking about outages of 14 gigawatts to 15.5 gigawatts. Folks, that's 1/3 of the fleet. That's what they're talking about after the election. 1/3 of the fleet will be down. And they say that's solving it. That's why the Daily Maverick is becoming less trustworthy. Now, the IEC has met with the U.S. Embassy and with the European Union and with other groups. They say there's nothing wrong with meeting with the U.S. Ambassador. Sile Mlambo's report. The IEC's top officials met with Ambassador Ruben Brigidi in Pretoria, drawing criticism from some circles the U.S. was apparently influencing the outcome of the polls. This is just asinine on the highest level. The United States has always been an observer of South Africa's elections since 1994. Why would we change now? This is just crass political opportunism by clowns who pretend to care about the public. They do not care. Yes. Now, the IOL says that Brigidi is no stranger to controversy in Pretoria because of the Lady R allegations. Yeah. Now, they claim that the allegations were found to be false after President Ramaphosa instituted a high-level panel to probe the allegations. Of course, very few people actually believe the results of the allegations. They believe what they saw, the video demonstrated, and the lies that the ANC told about the Lady R. So you can't say that what Brigidi said was false because we don't know. Yep. So, former ANC MP, convicted criminal Tony Yengeni, was one of those who was not happy with Brigidi meeting with the IEC. The IEC needs to explain this meeting with the U.S. ambassador. What was it about? Why meet a U.S. government official 30 days before the elections? Oh, grow up. You are a convicted criminal. We don't care what Tony Yengeni has to say. Be quiet, sit down, shut up. Hals Maul. Ooh, those are some harsh words. Hals Maul. That's what you tell dogs. Hals Maul. Sit down. Be quiet. Futsek, Tony Yengeni. You have no credibility. You're a criminal. Former Pan-African Congress leader Lapatha Mapalele is weighed in. U.S. ambassador yesterday had a meeting with the IEC. Anyone who thinks USA supports democracy must have his or her head examined. Really? The USA has overthrown countless democratically elected leaders across the globe. Kwame Nkrumah and Salvador Allende of Chile. First off, what a crock of horse manure. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown by the Ghanaian armed forces, you dipshit. And Salvador Allende, we didn't overthrow him. Are you claiming the CIA is responsible for it? No, Augustin Pinochet pulled that off on his own. The CIA was operating in Chile, but they're not the reason why that government was overthrown. And democratically elected leaders, Kwame Nkrumah was a fascist dictator who was corrupt, and that's why he was overthrown by his military. It's not legitimate, but that's why they overthrew him. And like a sad figure that Kwame Nkrumah became later in life, he scampered off to Guinea, where Sekou Touré rescued his reputation. Please. Pan-African Congress. Yeah, a bunch of commies. Anyway. We recently met with ambassadors from the EU, Latin America, and the United States. We'll soon be meeting with the Dean of the African Diplomatic Corps in a full diplomatic session. That's what their job is, to talk to people about the election. So grow up, you political opportunists, convicted criminals in South Africa, and communists. No one really cares what you've got to say. Utterly ridiculous. If the United States wasn't talking to South Africa, ANC claims that the U.S.-South African relationship will not be broken because we have a special relationship. But then politicians in South Africa whine that the IEC is talking to the U.S. It's a matter of course in every election they talk to the U.S., the European Union, and other organizations, United Nations as well. Grow up, grow up, grow up. Well, more fires in the Western Cape. Table Mountain is ablaze, and light rain has been helping the firefighters. 200 hectares of feld were destroyed. Several fires started Saturday during a lightning storm in Cape Town, and by Sunday, the area around Kirstenbosch. So by Wednesday, light rain in the morning helped to contain the fire that spread to Back Table, but there are isolated hotspots. So please be careful in Table Mountain National Park if you find yourself out there. Nearly 5,000 jobs to disappear from the bankrupt Postal Service. 5,000 post office employees to be retrenched after a failed court bid. The relief funding application was brought by the Joint Business Rescue Practitioners and relevant labor unions to get funding for the post office's bargaining unit staff. So there you go. Labor unions intervened to save 5,000 post office jobs. And guess what? They didn't save a single one. Thank you, labor unions. Once again, a failure. A fire along the M1 in Gauteng has cut power to some Joburg suburbs, and electricity infrastructure theft and vandalism are suspected for the reasons why that fire occurred. An underground fire broke out, affecting power supply to various parts of Johannesburg. Theft and vandalism have been suspected. The area between Empire and Crown Interchange was closed. Motorists were advised to use alternative routes, and they hadn't reported any injuries, and the cause of the fire is still subject to investigation. That's Youssef Abergi once again reporting on this. The power had been affected in Braamfontein, the Central Business District, and Parktown in Johannesburg. Former President Jacob Zuma is a wolf in sheep's clothing and a counter-revolutionary, says Thabo Mbeki. Of course, Thabo Mbeki never fought in the war. He never served in MK. So interesting for him to say counter-revolutionary when he's not even a revolutionary. He is the beneficiary of Govan Mbeki's struggle sacrifices. Thabo Mbeki's privileged upbringing and Oxford education, Ivy League education. Yeah, from blackouts to high levels of poverty, unmaintained infrastructure, former President Mbeki laid the blame on several reasons, but mostly on Jacob Zuma, whom he blamed and referred to as a wolf in sheep's clothing. He was speaking at Freedom Park in Tshwane, where he reflected on 30 years of freedom. He said one of the important decisions taken by the counter-revolution was that to achieve its objective of defeating the ANC was to ensure that it fails in its task properly to govern our country. Now, if you believe that, you would have to believe the ANC actually meant to govern the country for all and actually meant to have a rainbow nation. It becomes increasingly obvious that that was never the plan. The plan was always to boil the frog in the pot, as Cyril Ramaphosa famously said in 1993 or thereabouts. Yes. It was always black supremacy, not a rainbow nation. The ANC sold us a fairy tale, and many of you suckers fell for it. Over 500 baby turtles have washed ashore in a huge storm off the coast of South Africa. An aquarium in South Africa is stretched beyond capacity after more than 500 baby sea turtles, their loggerheads, were washed up on beaches by a powerful storm and rescued by members of the public. Many of them have been eating plastic in the wild. My goodness. They're endangered loggerheads. Most of them will spend the first few months of their lives in new plastic tanks at the Turtle Conservation Center at Two Oceans Aquarium in Cape Town. Rehabilitating 400 of the roughly 530 sick and injured turtles that were brought in. Wow, they sent the rest to 2 other aquariums to spread the load. My goodness. But they've been eating plastic. My goodness. It will cost $500 to get each turtle back to full strength before they're released into the warmer Indian Ocean in a few months. My goodness, that's terrible. Terrible. Many of the turtles ingested small pieces of plastic which exited their systems after they arrived at the aquarium. Noble True has a tray of plastic pieces collected in just one day, some as big as a fingernail. That's pretty sad. And why is that? Because False Bay is a toilet. It's a toilet. It's a disgrace. And people dumping their refuse into the ocean. Well, Tony Leon pens a very interesting op-ed today in which he contradicts Johnny Steinberg's recent assessment about what happened. Johnny Steinberg made all rosy description of how the ANC was on the right path for 15 years and only when Jacob Zuma came to power did it start to fall apart. Well, in fact, Tony Leon tears that apart in much the same fashion that I've torn apart this narrative because it's a false narrative. The ANC has always been a wolf in sheep's clothing, has always been a failure, has always move towards what has become a kleptocracy of criminal cabal organization. That's what it is. That's what it always was. It just took them longer to realize that. We can go back to the murder of 20,000 Kata members through necklacing and assassinations in the 1980s and early 1990s, perpetrated by the ANC, and go from there. Thabo Mbeki's AIDS denialism, Tony Yangani's theft, and corruption in the late 1990s, it's always been there. The conditions for a totalitarian fascist government have always been present in the ANC, which brokers no dissent, which brokers no discussion, which is simply a totalitarian fascist militaristic organization. And Tony Leon actually exposes some of that. In this op-ed piece in News 24, he says, when legend becomes fact, print the legend. Of course, that's from the movie The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Yep. So the first 15 years, the good years, is not true. That's what Johnny Steinberg says. And he says it's not true. He said liberation movements have also brought a military-style authoritarianism combined with a tendency to close ranks defensively when attacked or criticized. That is correct. They don't govern for the people. They govern for themselves. And that has always been the case with the ANC. It was just a matter of time before it all began collapsing around them. They've never achieved the 6.5% to 8% consistent year-on-year economic growth necessary to overcome endemic poverty. In fact, they've worsened poverty and now have generations of South Africans who are dependent on the state for handouts and have an expectation that someone else must bear the burden for their livelihoods. It's pathetic. It's sad. It is the ANC. Well, Eben Etzebeth making waves after an interview on a podcast. I need to interview him. He told Courtney Laws to keep his mouth shut. Springboks lock Eben Etzebeth to sit back in England Northampton Saints forward Courtney Laws. This is after Courtney ran his mouth about why the Bulls didn't bring all their Springboks. Jake White left 11 Springboks in South Africa when they traveled and complained about the multiple flights and everything. So Courtney Law said, my take was it's a very South African thing to do, the whole carnival around it, putting it out in the press about the 8 different flights, this and that. But I guarantee you that a lot of things there were at least exaggerated, to be honest, and it was a great way of them taking the pressure off themselves and essentially putting it on all of us. Disrupting us, getting us thinking different things and not quite on the ball. That's what I was pretty weary of, to be honest. I was pretty disappointed they didn't put their best team out. Wow, that's disgraceful by Courtney Laws, attacking South Africa. Of course, we know that England is one of the biggest cheating teams in rugby union, with dirty play and foul play on every game that they play. Just watch the video. Watch them grabbing people's ears. Watch them, cheating. Watch them. It's just, the list is endless. Cheap shots by England. They get away with so much. And to hear Courtney Laws run his mouth like this, it damages and tarnishes his reputation. It should take a hit. But Eben Etzebeth struck back. Eben said the Bulls get a lot of criticism for their way, and unfairly, I think. Obviously, I saw some players like Courtney Laws mentioning something, and that's a South African way. I don't know why I mentioned the whole South Africa. He surely doesn't know what's going on in South Africa, so he must rather keep his mouth shut. Well said, Eben Etzebeth. He said, it's Jake's call. If you're the coach, you must be able to select whoever you want to in the Champions Cup and the Challenge Cup. If you reach the top 4 and you don't have a home semifinal, and then the chance of you winning the competition is really low. Yep, that's true. So Eben Etzebeth making waves there. Well, he's also making waves in other comments about Ireland. Now, this one I'm less in support of him. I thought maybe he should have just kept this one to himself. But Eben Etzebeth says that the Irish were arrogant. Wow. Springboks lock and double World Cup winner Eben Etzebeth has accused Ireland of being arrogant and disrespecting the All Blacks during last year's World Cup in France. Wow. Due to the lopsided nature of last year's World Cup draw, former world number 1 Ireland and 2019 champion South Africa met in the pool stage. And as the Irish took a 13-8 victory in a hard-fought encounter in Paris, a game I attended, the win put Andy Farrell's men on a collision course with the All Blacks in the quarterfinal. But when they went to shake hands after the game with Ireland, he said, after the game, you shake the guys' hands, and 12 of the 23 told me, see you guys in the final. Eben Etzebeth's immediate thought was, are these guys seriously not even thinking about the All Blacks in a World Cup quarterfinal, playing against them? That remark that they made, see you guys in the final, I just thought these guys were making a big mistake to look past probably the most dominant team in the last 20 or 30 years of Test rugby. Surely they can't. Just felt like they were being so confident, saying things like, when you know you got the mighty All Blacks coming to the World Cup quarterfinal. Yep, there you go. So this is from a New Zealand source, but Eben said that on a podcast. So that one he probably should have kept to himself. Mali reports that they've killed an Islamic State leader, the commander. State TV in Mali says the senior Islamic State commander who had a $5 million U.S. reward. Courtney McBride has given another super chat. What's that for? May Day in Berlin, 1929, a bloody massacre. There's been plenty of bloody massacres, but thank you for sharing the $1.99, Courtney. Did you want to talk about that, or what's the reason for bringing it up? So, Mali says they killed Abu Husifa, linked to several high-profile raids in the Sahel region, including a 2017 attack that killed 4 American soldiers and several troops from Niger. And of course, that 2017 attack is the one in which John McCain, before he passed away, professed ignorance, that he didn't know that we had combat troops in Niger, which was a bold-faced lie. I watched the broadcast of the commander of AFRICOM testifying in open session to the Senate Armed Services Committee, which he was a member of, telling them that we had troops there training the Nigerians and special forces operating in Niger. He chose to be willfully ignorant of that, ignore that, and then for political grandstanding, the next year claimed that he didn't know, and the military must be held accountable. John McCain, you and that Senate authorized the funding for those troops and directed that this operation take place. Our troops were in Niger at your behest. I know this because I brought them into Niger in 2012, 2013. John McCain lied to the American people, but he's a hero because he was a prisoner for 5 years. No, you lied. Shouldn't have lied. China's newest aircraft carrier is out at sea now. Whoa, check it out, folks. It heads to sea for the first time. China's third aircraft carrier, the Fujian, sets out on its maiden trials from Shanghai. China's newest and largest, most advanced aircraft carrier, the Fujian, took a big step in joining the world's largest naval fleet on Wednesday as it set out from Shanghai for its first sea trials. The naval assessment expect to take place in East China Sea, 130 kilometers from the shipyard where the carrier has been under construction for more than 6 years. Sea trials will primarily test the reliability and stability of the aircraft carrier's propulsion electrical systems. It was launched in 2022, and now it's complete. Wow, I wonder what that'll look like when it sinks under the weight of U.S. missiles. Yikes. That's a provocative statement. Oh, take it easy, folks. Just a joke. Thousands evacuated from the volcano occurring in Indonesia. Mount Ruang in the central province of North Sulawesi sent thick clouds of ash more than 5 kilometers into the sky. This after it previously had an explosion the day before. Thousands of people evacuated, flights disrupted after Indonesia's Mount Ruang erupted again, sending thick clouds of ash more than 5 kilometers into the sky. Wow. I wonder if that's why I don't have sunshine today, as it made its way around the globe already and ruined my solar input. Stop that. These damn volcanoes. Mother Nature. Yeah, at this hour, I've got just 2.39 kilowatt hours. That's nothing. Bad start to the month. By the way, folks, last month I set a record. So we finally got 867 kilowatt hours, approaching 900 for 1 month. So many days of not having sun at the beginning of the month. The whole week was wasted. So it was really 3 weeks. Ukraine gets a huge shipment of German arms as part of Jens Stoltenberg, Olaf Scholz, and Joe Biden's proxy war in Ukraine. Ukraine has scored a massive weapons boost, according to Newsweek, from Germany as part of a fresh tranche of military aid unveiled. Great news from our German friends. Thank you for your steadfast support, said Ukraine's defense ministry on social media, announcing that Kyiv's military will receive more armored personnel carriers, anti-aircraft defenses, and ammunition for its ongoing fight against Russia. Russian forces have advanced in parts of Ukraine's eastern Donbass in recent months, but now they're getting a package of 10 Marder armored personnel carriers, a second Skynex anti-aircraft system, 30,000 rounds of ammunition for their Gepard anti-tank gun, and ammunition for the Leopard 2. Missiles for the Iris-T system, and other supplies as Germany continues to fuel a deadly war in Ukraine. Well, a failed asylum seeker in the United Kingdom left voluntarily to go to Rwanda after taxpayers gave him £3,000. Wow. So now taxpayers are footing the bill for criminals to be evicted from the United Kingdom. Will we have to foot the same bill to kick criminals out of the United States when Joe Biden is sent packing? The first failed asylum seeker has gone to Rwanda under a voluntary removal program. My goodness. Under the scheme announced last month, migrants whose claims are rejected are offered £3,000 to move to Rwanda. And of course, they'll be right back. And then we'll give them another £3,000. Yeah, there you go. That's a grand policy there. 2 men responsible apparently for the cutting down of the sycamore, famous for its appearance along Hadrian's Wall, have been charged. 7 months after the beloved tree in northern England was cut down, police have charged 2 men in their 30s with damaging the 200-year-old tree and part of Hadrian's Wall. 2 men in their 30s charged on Tuesday in connection with the chopping down the 200-year-old Sycamore Gap tree, which stood in a dip along Hadrian's Wall in northern England. The beloved sycamore's mysterious felling, which took place on a stormy September night, led to an outpouring of sorrow, anger, and confusion at the senselessness of the act. Why would anyone cut down one of Britain's most iconic trees? Daniel Graham, 38, and Adam Carruthers, 31, from Cumbria, were charged with damaging both the tree and part of Hadrian's Wall, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. According to the Northumbria Police, Hadrian's Wall, 100 miles southeast of Edinburgh and near England's border with Scotland, was built by the Roman army after the Emperor Hadrian's visit in AD 122. There you go, folks. That's where it was cut down. Sycamore Gap. 7 months after the felling of the tree, which was featured in the 1991 film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the police have not said whether they've uncovered any possible motivation for the crime, but they did cut the tree down. Shame. Well, the world's 7 biggest economies, the so-called G7, which now invite a whole host of other clowns, making it the informal G20, but the G7 have promised to eliminate the use of coal by 2035. Yeah. But activists say it's not enough. It's not enough that we have electricity shortages and we impoverish Americans and Europeans and we live in an age of joblessness courtesy of your war on energy. That's not enough. What else do we have to do? While China and India do nothing. Saudi Arabia does nothing to curb their carbon emissions. The final declaration from the G7 shysters, the Climate, Energy, and Environment Ministries meeting in Turin, Italy, issued Tuesday, confirmed the unanimous agreement of all 7 nations to eliminate coal-powered energy production within their borders by 2035. And I say this to you today, we will not accept that, we will not tolerate that, and we will do all we can to remove the leftist scumbags running our governments in this country so that we return to sanity. Burn coal, burn coal. Though not ambitious enough to meet the goals of the Paris Climate Agreement, it was a step forward on the global path toward decarbonization. Yes, the news is particularly noteworthy as seen as a big step for the U.S. and Japan, the only outlying countries not to have set coal phase-out date. The European Union and the G7 members account for 40% of global economy, 30% of energy demand, but just 25% of energy emissions. So we produce 40% of the global economy, but only 25% of global emissions. Have we not already exceeded and achieved wonderful standards while China, India, Saudi Arabia, Brazil are not affected by this? This is asinine. Absolute economic suicide. Economic suicide. Stupidity of the highest order. Well, Congress unveils Joe Biden's secret list of destination airports for criminal alien invaders. Yeah. The House Homeland Security Committee published a list of airports involved in Joe Biden's migrant illegal immigration lift. Hundreds of thousands of unauthorized criminal alien invaders skip over the border and fly directly into American communities where he dumped them. Florida airports are at the top of the list as he tries to change the vote in favor of leftists. New York was third on the list, Houston fourth, and another Florida location fifth. Wow, these documents expose the egregious lengths Secretary Mayorkas will go to ensure inadmissible aliens reach every corner of the country, from Orlando to Atlanta to Las Vegas to San Francisco. More than 400,000 criminal alien invaders have been welcomed to the U.S. through what the government calls its Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela program, or what I call a scam run by leftists to destroy America's culture, continuity, and unity. Joe Biden considers allowing Palestinians to come to America. Yes, he'll allow permanent residency for Gazans. Joe Biden and his crooked administration is considering plans to allow Palestinians to come to the United States forever. Wow. The move will put Biden administration at odds with his 2024 presidential rival Donald Trump, who's pledged to bar entry of all refugees from there. Wow. Unbelievable. So now we're going to have more people in our midst, courtesy of Joe Biden, seeking to destroy the cultural affinity of America. Police finally go into Colombia to remove these criminals who have occupied buildings there. New York City police officers entered Columbia University on Tuesday night to arrest students who seized a school building, a move that came after President Minouch Shafik declined for days to bring police to campus as unsanctioned protesters refused to leave their Gaza Solidarity encampment. Long overdue, folks. Long overdue. Long overdue. On campus, Kaifa-clad students responded by forming a human chain around Hamilton Hall. Well, go ahead and lock them all up. It won't matter in New York. They'll be released and the criminals will be back on the street moments later. Well, the destruction of the United Methodist Church is final. In an idiotic move, delegates voted to allow an abomination to take place. The Methodists moved to undo LGBTQ restrictions and embrace liberalized views on sexual practices. The United Methodist Church, interest of full disclosure, this was my church, was business session Tuesday voted to end a ban on using church funds to advocate for gay rights, a prelude to action expected later this week that would drop the denomination's official restrictions on LGBTQ clergy and same-sex marriage. It's one thing to condone homosexuality. It's quite another to use my tithings to promote homosexuality. That's morally bankrupt, and it runs against the teachings and the tenets of the faith. The financial, clerical, and marriage restrictions were enhanced at a special legislative meeting held in 2019. The vote on how funds are used relative to LGBTQ issues is a first step towards overturning those policies. United Methodist Church finances dropped concurrently. The shift to more LGBTQ-friendly policies comes after 4 years of turmoil that saw 25% of the church U.S. congregations and members exit the denomination, many in anticipation of the liberalization of rules on sexual issues. United Methodist Church finances dropped concurrently, prompting a 4-year denominational budget proposal this week that's 42% lower than the last one that was voted on. Wow. But the proposed changes to several policies related to LGBTQ issues took center stage at a long-postponed general conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. Also eliminated requirements of church ordination panels must first declare whether candidates for ministry are self-evaluating practicing homosexuals, as well as a requirement that bishops deem such candidates unqualified for ministry. Now, gay clergy in good standing can be appointed across the boundaries of an annual conference. The United Methodist Church has destroyed itself. Florida's 6-week ban on abortion is now law, and the left is losing its mind. The ban took effect today as part of Governor Ron DeSantis' push. As Governor DeSantis prepared to run for president last spring, he gathered anti-abortion activists in his Capitol office for an unusual bill signing held late at night and behind closed doors. Florida lawmakers had just approved a ban on abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy, a major shift that would sharply restrict access to the procedure for women in neighboring states as well as Floridians. Why does it ban access to abortion? It does not ban access to abortion. It simply says you cannot get an abortion after 6 weeks. You can still get one in the first 6 weeks. Colombia. The police had to do it. Colombia's president expressed regret about calling the police to clear a previous protest. On Tuesday, she said she had no choice after protesters occupied a building on campus. Yes, they're criminals. They're absolute criminals, and that's why the police had to be called in. Exactly 56 years today after a 1968 student occupation at Columbia was violently cleared by New York police, hundreds of police officers moved into the Manhattan campus on Tuesday to quell a different kind of anti-war protest. Folks, we're not even in this war, and these scumbags are undermining our nation. University of California at Los Angeles, UCLA, calls in the police as clashes escalate there. Law enforcement officers at UCLA and other campuses to clear pro-Palestinian demonstrations after tense 24 hours at American universities. Well, start arresting these scumbags. Yeah. UCLA declared a pro-Palestinian encampment illegal on Tuesday night. Clashes broke out. Administrators called for police to help. Well, when you've been told it's illegal, then you vacate. They allowed you to stay there that long, just leave. But this is the lawlessness that we're dealing with here. The Charlotte Mecklenburg shooting, shocking video emerged of the horror shootout that left 4 law enforcement officers dead. Shocking videos emerged of the shootout in Charlotte, North Carolina, that left 4 officers dead. Terry Clark Hughes, 39, opened fire on officers as they approached his home Monday trying to serve him warrants. Hughes was fatally shot during the exchange. 3 of the slain officers were members of U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, North Carolina Department of Adult Corrections Sam Pelosi, and Alden Elliott Deputy Marshal, U.S. Marshal Thomas Weeks, and 6-year veteran Joshua Iyer. There's the house. Here are the officers who were murdered. Joshua Iyer was with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department. Terry Clark Hughes, fatally shot. Records show he has a lengthy criminal history. In April 2010, he was arrested for aggravated assault against a female. Same year, he was convicted of breaking and entering and spent approximately 6 months in prison before being released in May of 2011. 1 year prior, in 2009, he'd been charged with the same offense as well as possessing a stolen firearm. In 2006, he was twice charged with carrying a concealed gun and jailed again later that year. Guns are not the problem. Criminals are the problem. Why was this guy not put away? The guy broke the law over and over and over and over and over again. And now 4 law enforcement officials are dead. In his final act on Monday, he was suspected of killing 4 law enforcement. He's not suspected. He did it. Shots were fired from overhead. Oh, there he is. Terry Clark Hughes. That fine, upstanding young man. 20-year rap sheet. Terry Clark Hughes, 5'9", 180 pounds of shithead. Been tempted to serve him felony warrants on him. His criminal records show his extensive rap sheet with many drug-related charges. Aggravated assault, possession of firearm by a felon, multiple counts of fleeing to elude arrest, reckless driving in danger, as well as communicating threats. A charge brought by his own father. By his own father. By his own father. Can you believe that? This is what soft on crime gets you. Speaking of soft on crime, U.S. Justice Department is going to downgrade the seriousness of illegal substance. Justice Department takes steps to make marijuana use a less serious crime. U.S. Justice Department Tuesday moved to make marijuana a less serious federal crime, taking a step to remove the drug from a category that includes heroin in a shift that could shake up the cannabis policy nationwide. And in response, shares of cannabis drug firms, people who sell pot, rose substantially. They surged. The Justice Department, which oversees Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, said Attorney General Merrick Garland, or Meritless Garland, recommended that cannabis be classified as so-called Schedule III drug with a moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence instead of a Schedule I, which is reserved for drugs with a high potential for abuse. And here we have the destruction of America continuing apace. Well, NASA's Starliner from Boeing is about to launch. I'll cover that. It's going to be late in the evening here, early morning South Africa time. NASA will provide live coverage of pre-launch and launch activities for the agency's Boeing Crew test flight, which will carry NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams to and from the International Space Station. The launch of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket and Boeing Starliner spacecraft is targeted for 10:34 on Monday, May 6th, from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral. Wow. They'll dock to the forward-facing port on the station's Harmony module on May 8th. Wow. There you go, folks. Be covering that one. That's exciting. Well, the Democrats have won a seat that was vacant, narrowing the margin back to where they were after the last election of 213 Democrats in the House. Democratic State Senator Tim Kennedy won a special election in the deeply blue 26th district in western New York to serve the rest of Brian Higgins' term. It was held by a Democrat. So the vote now is 217 to 213. Just 4 votes. The Republicans are out in front. Yep. So there you go. Brian Higgins resigned earlier this year, triggering a special election for the rest of his term. Of course, he's a Democrat. This is covering Buffalo in the West. When Army Division has banned leaders from bothering their soldiers after work hours in the continual destruction of American exceptionalism. Yep. Major General David Doyle, commander of Fort Carson-based 4th Infantry Division, issued a memo last week barring leaders from texting or calling subordinates between 6 p.m. and 5 a.m. with some caveats, including communications for health and safety reasons or personal communication. We receive feedback from our soldiers across the division expressing a desire for more predictability and better communication practices. If we practice good communications and training management fundamentals, then we'll place less unnecessary stress on the unit, improving quality of life and readiness. Horseshit. Horseshit. You don't work for UPS. You don't work for the Postal Service. You don't work at Abercrombie and Fitch. You do not pour ice cream at Dairy Queen. You do not flip burgers at McDonald's. You provide a service for national security, and you are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This Major General should be sanctioned for his stupidity. His stupidity. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. By the way, this is in the 1st Division. The 10th Mountain Division apparently did very little fanfare a couple of years ago. So now we can't even call soldiers when the Soviets attack. Wait, there are no Soviets. When the Russians attack. When the Chinese attack. We don't defend our borders. We use pronouns in our freaking email. We allow men to dress as women and wear uniforms and expect respect from their subordinates. And now we can't even talk to people when it's after 5 p.m. Are you freaking serious? The devolution of the U.S. military is a disgrace, and it's happening on the watch of Joe Biden. It started under Barack Hussein Obama. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, here is what happens when you give things to people for free. They become lazy, and they demand that you give it to them into perpetuity, like antiretrovirals. The President's Emergency Program for AIDS Relief, or PEPFAR, was meant to be a stopgap measure to stop the carnage in HIV, particularly in Africa, especially in Southern Africa. But here we are, 20 freaking years later, and we're still paying for antiretrovirals for South Africans who are irresponsible with their sexual behavior. 20 years later, we're still paying for it. The government of South Africa should be paying for that. We should be contributing nothing to the health of South Africans. That's up to South Africans. We should not be paying for the health of Ugandans. That's up to Ugandans. But we do. Because you give things away and they never go away. And now we have a $2 trillion deficit this year, a deficit that is larger than the entire federal budget was in the year 2000. I'm not talking about 1787 or 1846 or 1920. I'm talking about the year 2000 in this frickin' millennium. $1.8 trillion was the budget in the year 2000. This year's Biden regime budget proposal has a $2 trillion deficit. Why? Because we're paying for antiretrovirals in South Africa. We're funding Joe Biden's proxy war in the Ukraine with money that does not exist. And we're giving money to Native Americans so they get free internet. Even though they run businesses. They run businesses and give free internet. Can you believe this? Hey, by the way, it's not just Native Americans. The federal government's infrastructure bogus bullshit bill that Joe Biden's Build Back Better bullshit put in place gives Pennsylvania $1.16 billion or $3,600 per person and small business for broadband internet access. The gravy train, taking from those of us who are productive and giving to others. And this is what you get. A collapse of society. Affordable internet gave Native Americans a way to preserve community and culture. Now it's another broken promise, says Brian Fung. Oh, thank you, Brian. Tucked beside the St. Lawrence River in northern New York and straddling the U.S.-Canadian border, the Akwesasne Mohawk Nation has nurtured generations of indigenous artisans. Kelly Back, a member of the Mohawk, handicrafts traditional beaded belts, hat bands, purses, and sashes that many of the roughly 13,000 members of the tribe wear at weddings, graduations, and other ceremonies. When she started her business in 2014, Back's artwork mainly circulated with her own tribe, but after she got on social media, her business exploded. My business wouldn't be here if it weren't for social media, because I don't just get followers from within our communities. I get followers and customers from other communities across the world. And we paid for that access so she could make a fortune. Back estimates she makes 5 figures a year from her artwork. So when U.S. government offered to help with the cost of her internet service with credits up to $75 a month, she was very grateful. That's a couple meals right there. Any bit of money helps, especially for indigenous communities, because a lot of our people are artisans and they depend on their cultural artwork to get by. But now you have a tens of thousands of dollar business and you're too cheap to pay the $75 you expect us to pay for it. Wow. Now, with the help ending, threatening the livelihoods of indigenous creators like Back, within weeks, the 2-year-old U.S. Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP, is set to run out of funds and Congress won't refund it. It'll affect nearly 1 in 5 U.S. households, or an estimated 60 million Americans. Americans could see a spike in their internet bills, or they could have to. Well, hey, you know what? How about you rest? You pay $300 a month for your internet like I have to pay. I have to pay $300 a month for internet so that she can get it for free. Yeah. How is that fair? How is that just? How is that morally right? Ladies and gentlemen, the miraculous recovery of Voyager probe 15 billion miles from Earth. Wow, that's 24 billion kilometers. The trouble began 5 months ago when Voyager 1, that was the first to leave our solar system, started sending back gibberish instead of the usual stream of valuable data. NASA's team faced a daunting task deciphering the issue from billions of miles away. They pinpointed the problem to the flight data subsystem, the onboard computer responsible for formatting the data before transmission. Somehow part of its memory became corrupted, probably cosmic rays. After relentless efforts, a breakthrough came in March when an engineer managed to retrieve a complete copy of the memory. This was a game changer, enabling the team to precisely identify the corrupted bits. So then what they did is they replaced it. This is where the story takes a turn into what can be described. Ooh, what's that? A super chat from Paulie. Thank you, Paulie, for 100 Rand. Didn't even know you were there. Didn't even know. Mystique, this is all my effing land is how it's right. What? Some business owner took those PP loans, white or native, Chris. Yeah, and I didn't take them. No, so not every small business. You're incorrect. I have a consultancy. I didn't take a penny of that PPE money. Didn't do it. And that's not PPE money. That's ACP. So, yeah, anyway, the software neurosurgery, Voyager 1's immense distance, 23 billion kilometers from Earth, physically replacing the faulty memory was out of the question. The corrupted data couldn't simply be reset. Wow. Manual precision. Each piece of data had to be carefully repositioned within the spacecraft's aging memory. It was like performing delicate surgery with a virtual scalpel, where a single misplaced bit could spell disaster. But they pulled it off. And while they're not getting the data, they can't get it back. They're working on a plan to get the data back. But now they can at least talk to Voyager 1, 24 billion kilometers away. Well, Courtney says it's important for leaders to respect boundaries. $1.99. No, it's not, Courtney. You serve in uniform. You're not working for a corporation. You serve the American people. Boundaries are your personal space. Boundaries are your personal independence. Boundaries are imposing on you with harassment or abuse. Being able to call soldiers and tell them to go to the motor pool at 7 p.m. because something came in, it needs to be fixed so you're operationally ready that night is not violating a boundary. It's performing your job as a leader and as a soldier. Well, the mumpara of the day is Brian Cox, the asinine actor here from the U.S./Ireland. The Bible is one of the worst books ever, says the leftist secession star Brian Cox. It's not even the truth. And you're not even a quality actor. You've always been an ass, to say the least. One of the worst books ever, said actor Brian Cox, his verdict on the Bible. The self-proclaimed socialist said on the Starting Line podcast with Rich Lee that religion holds humanity back. Well, asshat actors like Brian Cox hold humanity back. Oh, considerably, yes. I think religion does hold us back because it's belief systems which are outside ourselves. We're dealing with, if God says this and God does that, you go, well, what is God? We've created the idea of God, and we've created it as a control issue. It's essentially patriarchal. We haven't given enough scope to the matriarchy. Wow, the 77-year-old moron shares with his thoughts about the Bible. What a hateful person. What a hateful person, Brian Cox. How about you just shut up for a sec? Hodsmall. How's that, Brian Cox? Hit the road, Jack. Nobody wants to hear your nonsense. Anyway, let me get to the chat here. So thank you for the super chat there, Courtney, although we disagree. This is not a debate society. The military is an authoritarian organization by design. And there's the super chat. Thank you for that, Courtney. All right, so back to this. What's this? We have a military that consists of 110,000 soldiers that can't even jump a fence. Your military is only 58,000, Petra, if you're talking about South Africa. All right, what did I miss here? So, totalitarianism, just endemic government, is just common organized religion. Yes, it is. It is. It is authoritarian. Yeah, no doubt about that, Courtney. You might just have caused a dramatic incident with the Chinese Communist Party. Really, Keith? When I talked about what that ship will look like with a missile hitting it, I heard something interesting today. Republican government respects the Constitution, but Democratic government does not respect the Constitution. No, that might be true. South Africa rejoined the Commonwealth. Ramaphosa was the first president to pay homage to King Charles when he ascended the throne. That's true. All right, what else we got here? I heard that interview with Laws, and it was totally tongue-in-cheek. Okay, Fleshin, then maybe Eben Etzebeth overstepped his bounds. Again, I didn't hear either interview, so I'm just reading what the press writes. So, 30 years, what some call freedom. No one can call it democracy, sadly. There were a few moments of democracy in that period. We had a few more here. A few more in the South Africa and UK, as have the US. That's true. ANC was still a terrorist organization. Can somebody please explain to Africans that freedom does not equal wealth? Thank you, Mark Myberg. That's correct. Freedom is not wealth. Freedom is your liberty. That's what that is. Yep. Ukraine will be joining NATO. Not if we can help it, David Renke. Jens Stoltenberg must be removed as the Secretary General of the NATO organization. Jens Stoltenberg is a danger to global security, as is his mouthpiece and friend, Joe Biden. Ukraine is not going to become a member of NATO. We will find a way to stop that from happening. It is unacceptable. Ukraine has no business in NATO. We have no interest in Ukraine. All we are doing is provoking and starting a war with Russia. We were already provocative enough by inviting the Baltic states in, but there's historic precedent for inviting the Baltic states in. There's also historic reason for inviting the Baltic states in, but there's no basis whatsoever in God's green acre for including Ukraine, a thoroughly corrupt state of kleptocrats who provoked a war with Russia and then sought our protective shield. Ukraine should not be part of NATO. It's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Ukraine is nowhere near the Atlantic. It doesn't belong in the organization. Simple as that. Gory City has its own mint, made parts for Porsche Germany. I didn't know that. Okay. I do like that line. Can somebody please explain Africans that freedom does not equal wealth? Exactly right. 100% in that statement. Aquariums depress me because they're kept in captivity, but penguins and fish follow me. What? Oh, no, aquariums are okay because, I mean, they're not eaten by algae. I mean, if those creatures were in the sea, they'd be eaten by something bigger. Yep, I heard. Okay, all right. So thank you for that, Flesh. And I didn't hear the interview, tongue in cheek. All right, well, maybe Eben should shut up. All right, Sedgefield's here. Courtney McBride, Mozambique is in the Commonwealth now. Yeah, exactly. Mozambique applied for and was admitted to the Commonwealth. Makes no sense whatever. It's a Lusophone country. But they thought they saw an opportunity there, so they joined it. And it makes sense because many of their neighbors are part of the Commonwealth. Yep. What else we got here? Been watching the geology channels on Rwanda volcano. The island was mainly destroyed, but there are inhabited islands just a few miles away. True. Thanks for the awesome stream. Fiona was here, and she left. Okay, John McCain also didn't know it. Troops in Cambodia. Well, yes, because he was a prisoner of war. Why would he know that? Do you see all the carbon of those cooling towers being collected from the passing fresh air due to the convection currents in the air? If there are no winds blowing in Cape Town, it'll be one of the worst polluted towns in the country. Possibly because you've got that oil refinery there. Are they revolutionizing yet? Who? The Marxists have been taking over the churches for quite some time now. Yeah, well, the United Methodist Church needs some of that Uganda magic, says Matthew Dixon. Wasn't there a schism in the Anglican Church over gays? Yes, there was. So that 25% that left took 42% of the money with them. Ouch. Yeah, exactly, Mystique. We were the most generous contributors to the tithing in the United Methodist Church because the leftists never give. They never give. Conservatives are always the ones that are generous. It's not the leftists. Greetings from the great RSA, says RJ. Welcome to you. Maybe these guys are on crystal like Crystal Methodist. That's a funny lie there, Slippery Pickle. James Bowie, I still don't have that thing, man. No lie, I literally just went and saw Crystal Method. Okay. More like the Adderall. Good Lord. All right. Oh no, woke students fight woke administrators and wreck their woke universities. Exactly. What could go wrong there? The Patriot has no implication here whatsoever. What is shocking me is that the campus protesters have no idea why they're there, not even the script. Well, it's like gays for Gaza. I got to love that line. That's stupid as all get out. This guy should have been in prison already. Yeah, that guy there in North Carolina. Yep, Courtney says they shut down one there. That's good. Yeah, they put his photo in. You know, I'm shocked they put his photo in because his skin pigmentation is overly melanated. Normally they hide that from folks. When the criminal happens to have an overly melanated skin pigmentation, they kind of hide that. The United Church has been losing members for years. Church LDS is becoming more tolerant, but their membership continues to grow. Well, I don't know what you mean more tolerant. The LDS Church is very tolerant, Courtney. I don't know what you're talking about. I can tell you 25 years ago that they had stakes in Botswana where they were recruiting people to the LDS Church. Most of the growth in the LDS Church in the past 4 decades has been in places that are not white, that are not in Utah. It's been abroad in Africa and Latin America. The LDS Church is growing by leaps and bounds, and they have been for a long time. They've always been tolerant. That's a myth about the LDS that has been perpetrated by bigots and racists. What has happened to integrity and morals? The beautiful world of ours is run by fools and criminals. Spot on, Petra. You hit it right on the head. Yeah, we don't want a kaboom video on this one, Hendo. There's people on board. We don't want a kaboom video here. Like we, because you can just grow your own eventually. Alcohol and tobacco are known to be highly addictive. It's legal. Yes, and running for politics is legal, but it's full of criminals. What's your point, Mark? Sadly, educators of students have let their students down by feeding them dodgy information, though if adults, such students bear the ultimate liability for failing. Yeah, I agreed. Slippery Pickle says weed should grow freely in manure, just like hippies. My goodness. And pretending Chris Clock says 420, I'm going outside. Yeah, what else? Mystique, dude, that thing is wasting money and total BS. They haven't got Indian shit. I am. What? I don't know what that comment is. They came and built sidewalks in our tiny town. That's too long ago, so I don't know where your comment was. Nobody needs a damn sidewalk. Kids have to ride a bus to school even if they live right across the street from it. May. When they give you free shit, you take it. Yep. The Freemasons began as a trade union in the Middle Ages. They built great cathedrals in Europe and formed the Knights Templar. Yeah, okay. Thanks for the lesson, Courtney. Okay. Backwoods Law is still here. Cool. Every small business owner took PPP loans. I did not, Mystique. I did not. 6,000 Rand for Wi-Fi. I think you're being scammed, Colonel. Yep, it's about $300 a month. That's correct. That's what I pay. Well, hey, my food bill has almost tripled in the past 2 years. It's crazy. That's why, going and buying steamed crabs is not a big deal. I mean, I go get 2 bags of groceries and it's $120. Getting steamed crabs, enjoy myself, cost me a bit less than that. Government wastes more on welfare. Yep. Windows funding tonight, says Petra. Okay. FastNet is being rolled out by the government so they can use 5G to track every citizen. Actually, folks, I wrote some notes down earlier, and I've got some notes here that I scribbled down on a piece of paper for a stream of consciousness when I was in the shower after mowing the back lawn. And I'm going to write an article about the false claim that the modern age of affordable international travel, social media, and access to those things has undermined the sovereignty of the state. That's been an argument going on for a while. And in fact, I was one of the people who said that it was weakening the sovereignty. But what we did anticipate was the strike back from the state. The state is now using those things to control people and to undermine them and to arrest them and to imprison them. So I'm going to write a counterfactual not counterfactual, it's factual, but counter argument to that narrative. In fact, the state that can harness the ability is now emboldened as opposed to losing its sovereignty. Yep. Tons of people took that money, millionaires, billionaires took it. Yes, they did, Mystique. You are correct. You are correct. Ukraine was the capital of the Russian Empire. That's correct. It was Kievan Rus. You do realize you can no longer visit either Hong Kong or China after earlier. Keith, you're stuck on that comment. I've never been to either. I've been to the airport in Hong Kong, but yep. Why does SATO not exist? Only NATO. Imagine Ryan Macbeth on Colonel Chris channel, vice versa. I don't even know who Ryan Macbeth is. Okay. Ryan Bix, remember that name. I studied Shakespeare. Well, Macbeth. It's Macbeth, not Macbeth. But anyway, Johnny says called the PA the Poles-Moore Alliance. Ooh, that's funny. Wow. Okay. T-shirt picture of an M16. What's this? All right. What's this, Dave Ranky? What? Been a long time. Who do you think will win the South African election? No one will win. No one will win. South Africans will be the least winner in this. So no one will win the South African election. I've done a video. I don't know why people have found it. Dave, you haven't been here a while. So let's get you the video link. I did a video about the coalition possibilities. So here we go. South Africa's coalition scenarios. I did that a month ago and only 2,400 people watched it. I'd recommend you go watch. It's not a very long video. It talks about what's likely to be the outcome of the election in coalitions. And I've named the coalitions, including one of them known as the Armageddon Coalition. That would be an ANC, MK, and EFF coalition, which is a possibility. Alex Jones on my show. Alex Jones would never come on my show. And I'd be afraid to come on my show and get me $1 billion lawsuit. Biden ad at the beginning of the YouTube videos. His campaign gets charged for that advert. Oh, that's good. That's good, Courtney. Yeah. Yeah, I encourage people to watch Joe Biden's ads. That way he gets billed for it. That's a good one. Yeah, scientist says the Armageddon Coalition, which I just mentioned, will be in power. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I put it up last month, but YouTube hides my videos. You don't get notifications. That video has just 2,432 views, which is what it's had for ages. It's gotten 2 views in the last 2 days. So it hit 2,100 after 3 days. Yep. So, yep, it's not a very long video. So, yeah, that video is 6 minutes, 51 seconds. Yep. Please reach out to Ryan Macbeth. Okay, who's Ryan Macbeth, man? Okay, YouTube, Ryan Macbeth. Why doesn't he reach out to me? Ryan Macbeth. Is he an Intel analyst? 885,000 subscribers. Is that the guy?
I had a question from someone on Reddit. I know, right?
Is that him? Teaches programming and cybersecurity. Is that the guy? Wow, I envy his views. That's pretty impressive. Alex Jones. Is that the guy, Ryan Macbeth? I don't know who he is. I mean, I never heard of him. There's a lot of YouTubers out there, folks. Can't know who all of them are. Subscribe. Okay, I just subscribed. I don't know who he is. I hope that's the guy. Is he from? He's got an Irish flag up there. I don't know what that is. He apparently likes to smoke. Anyway. Yeah, is that the guy? Let me know before we wrap up here. So I've got, folks, you're going to be redirected to Kanako after this. There'll be a break because I need a break. I've been broadcasting for 3 straight hours. So after this, you'll be directed to Kanako if you want to. Oh, it's already set up for it. Cool. Yep. All right. No one's answering whether that's the guy or not. Please quote the Bible verse I posted in the comments. They're pretty revelatory of how bad the Bible is. No, I'm not going to attack the Bible. I'm not going to attack the Torah. I'm also not going to attack the Quran. Kanako is at 8 p.m. South Africa time in 32 minutes coming up. Koketsu Retsani will be on with me tonight. Possibly Nolu. Dumo will not be there. Dumo will not be there. So, yep. So that's coming up here shortly. So hopefully we'll get some folks to tune in for that. So cool beans. Go Stormer, says Garrett. Yeah. Yeah, the Stormers aren't playing this weekend because they screwed the pooch and got eliminated from the Champions Cup. So the Champions Cup was of very little interest here, but the Challenge Cup has the Sharks in it. That's exciting. RJ says that's the Ryan McBeth he's referencing. Okay, you should tell him about me. Go in his chat and say, hey, you should talk to the Colonel. That the guy is switched on, man. You should tell him that. I'd appreciate that. Context for some just is not possible. I don't know what you're talking about, Matthew. Come now. There's only one, the Bulls. Chris Ayler says there's only one team, the Bulls. I'm sorry, that's not true. Sue says, thanks for all today. It's been amazing. Well, we're not done, folks. We're going to wrap up the news right here. I want to thank you all. 81 people currently here. I hate to leave with an audience of 81. Wow. That's actually pretty good. But we do need to cut out. I know you don't get enough for your time. No, I don't. I don't get enough money. It's certainly enough for rewards and views. But you know what? It's important. And it leaves a body of evidence there for people to take a look at, Dave. So please go watch that video and give me your thoughts on it. Remember, I did that a month ago. I didn't have access. That was based on the Brenthurst poll. The Ipsos polls come out since then. See you within a few minutes on K Nako, says Patreon. All right, I'm looking forward to that. Going to have a lovely conversation. Going to talk about that pit latrine death and other stuff. Yep, fourth was going to be 5 live streams, but we're not doing anything with Ronaldo today. Otherwise, would have done it. Your sister's a Mormon. Why aren't you a Mormon? Well, why would I answer that question, Courtney? That's kind of a personal issue, isn't it? But yes, one of my sisters is a Mormon, and my nieces and nephews are Mormons. That's correct. Yep. Been a good day. It has, Chris, and we're going to wrap it up here. I'll see you all here in about 30 minutes on the program. Thanks a lot for being here. Be sure to hit the like button on your way out the door, folks. That doesn't cost you anything but a moment of your time. You're all very welcome. God bless. And we'll move on to the next broadcast. K Nako, it has been since February, so I'm looking forward to the K Nako. Cheers, everybody. Green Phantom, I do videos. I've interviewed Roman Kabanak. I do a segment called The Bribe Brews with Byron Shepard, and I also appeared on Renegade Reports. Long done that. But I'm glad you found me that way. Thanks a lot. Cheers, everybody.